folks, Ariel over here at Nyth. If you hear Burley in the background, you can probably hear the chipmunk that's squawking at him. That drives him a little crazy. Today I wanted to do a video kind of wrapping up the garlic harvest. So if you go back and look, I've done videos on planting it in the fall. So you can see when it first pops up, when the snow's barely melted. Did one on harvesting, it just basically sat there all summer and grew. And then we harvested this about a month ago and hung it here. I'm in the woodshed to cure because we want it somewhere where there's lots of air movement and fairly, moderate temperature out of the sun. And now it's well cured. I need to get it out of here, partially because, as you can probably see, the two wings are, this middle still has a hole, but these are both clear full of firewood for the winter. So I need to get this out of here so I can fill this middle up right here. This first bunch, if you see all the bare ends there, that's because I've been using it. Because I cook with garlic a lot. And as I start to use it, I start with any heads that are really small, that look like they may have been, hey baby boy, I know it drives you crazy, I know. That may have been a little damaged, anything that just looks not quite perfect. The appearance doesn't matter so much. When things look a little imperfect, it's often a sign of some kind of damage, and that just means it won't store as well. So now these have been hanging here and cured. You can see how all the tops look all dried up and rattly, all that green juice sucked down into the plant's bulb. And now I'm just taking a scissors, or you could use a clippers or whatever, and I'm cutting it off, leaving a little bit of the stem on. If there's some real loose paperies like that, you can pull them off, but you don't need to. I don't want to peel off any of the rest of these paper layers because that's its protective coating. Everything feels nice and firm. And you do want to be gentle with it because when you want to store almost anything, if there's a bruise, kind of like a bruise on your skin is damage to your skin, it's damage to the tissue of the garlic or whatever plant we're talking about, and it doesn't keep as well. It doesn't mean you can't eat it, it just won't store as long before something would rot. So that's what it looks like. I'd already trimmed the roots up a little bit when I first pulled them up, and now I'm just going to put them all in a cardboard box like this. In case you're wondering, this is Burley's. I am not an elk bandana. It is hunting season around here, and some people who hunt don't have a lot of brains when it comes to what is and is not the animal they're looking for. So I'm just going to go through all of these clumps, and I could take them off my string here. I don't want to cut my bulbs real down close here because it could end up snipping the top of the actual cloves, so I'm going to leave a little handle on the top there and just gently put them in my box. There. One more. I had used most of this clump already. So now that is all, a few more that I missed. There we go. The rest of that clump is just going to go in the compost, minus the rubber band, which I'll take off, and go back into the soil for next year. But that's all done, and these garlic are all going to store. And everything does feel really nice and firm. All the garlic I have eaten so far from here has been really wonderful. I'm pretty happy with my harvest this year. So I'm just going to continue this. If there's a little extra dirt on a bulb, oh, wrong one, this one's the one with more dirt, you can brush it real gently, but that dry dirt doesn't actually hurt anything, and the more you mess with the bulbs, the more likely you are to bruise them. So I'm okay with just leaving, at this point, whatever dirt is on them can just stay on them. It's partly why they're going in a little box. You can hang them in a bag, like mesh bags. You can even keep mesh bags you get other produce or garlic in at a grocery store if it comes that way, to store your own garlic. Whatever you like, but something where some air can circulate is usually important because you don't want it to get humid and moldy. That would prevent your garlic from keeping. Garlic stores best at about 60 to 65 degrees Fahrenheit and at about 40 to 50% humidity. Probably a lot of you guys have homes with that much humidity in them. I don't. It's almost never that humid here, and especially in the winter with wood heat, it's very, very dry inside, but it's very dry here all the time. So without a good root cellar, and yes, that is in my long-term plans, but I don't have one right now. Without a good root cellar, which is better at keeping humidity, the place I've generally found best in my little place to store garlic is under the sink. It stays a little cooler under there because it's kind of the far end of the house from the wood stove, and it is the water tank is under there, and that keeps it a little bit cooler, and so on. So that just seems to be the best place I have to store garlic. So this box is going to live under the sink until I use all of my garlic up. But you don't want it somewhere too humid or it will mold. That's not an issue I tend to have. But somewhere too dry, it will start like dehydrating, and you'll open a clove, and instead of it feeling nice and firm like that does right now, it will start to feel shriveled up. And you can still use it, just toss it in a soup or something, but it just doesn't keep as well at that point. So, just going to finish doing this, and that's the last step in my garlic harvest. So, it took, let's see, this is kind of mid-September, and I planted this stuff in October, so my whole garlic process took me 11 months, but not very much actual time during those 11 months, because all I did was, it probably took me, I'd say at the most, 10-15 minutes to put it all in the ground last fall. Then I did absolutely nothing to it all winter while it sat under the dirt, and fall is generally the best time to plant garlic. So we're getting ready to replant some here. I'll talk about that in a sec. But it sat under the snow all winter, didn't have to do anything to it in the spring when it popped up. Just came up and started growing even before the snow was melted off of it. Then I weeded it like the rest of the garden, maybe twice in the summer, made sure it got water when it was dry like the rest of the garden. And then the most time it took me was to pull it all out and hang it up here, which you guys saw in another video. And then just a little bit of time today to do this and trim it off of here and take my baling twine wire off and put it all in a box. And I may need a bigger box actually. This I thought would hold it all, but I don't think it's going to, even with as much garlic as I've eaten in the last month. Now when you do have freshly grown cloves, you will notice when you go to peel them, because this will keep drying some more. The ones I've used so far, when you go to peel them, they're a little bit more soft and rubbery. The papery parts, they're not completely dry and papery yet, so that's totally normal. It's just really fresh garlic. If you get some from a farmer's market or something, even if you've never grown your own, you may find it has a little more of that texture than what you generally find in the grocery store, which is often older and drier. So the next step to start the whole process over, and I had to buy this garlic last year to plant because my gophers had eaten all of mine from the year before and I had none. But since I have a great crop this year, and as far as hanging under here, people ask if rodents would get into it. I haven't seen any chipmunk or any mouse or anything have any desire to eat garlic. It's supposed to deter gophers. I have the crazy ones that ate it anyway. But it does seem like other rodents in general don't really mess with it, at least not when there's other options of green things still growing outside to eat. So this worked out well as a place to hang it to dry. Like I said, I just need to get out of here now because I need to fill it the rest of the way with firewood. So to plant, now that I have my own good garlic, I'm going to look through this box once I'm done with cutting all of these off like this. And I'm going to pick out the biggest, fattest, best looking, juiciest bulbs, and we're going to replant those. Because I want to select for the particular plants and genetics and whatever that really are happiest right here in my spot with my weather and my climate and all of that kind of thing. So those will be the ones I replant for next year. I'll pull out enough. I'll have to see. There's often maybe like 10 cloves in one of those, and I want to plant about 200 cloves again to have for next year. So that means I'll pull about my 20 biggest cloves here, or heads, to pull apart the cloves and replant. So that will be my next step, and that's starting over the process for a whole nother year. And that's all there is to growing garlic. I think it's a really really unfussy crop if you have a climate where it's happy, and I think there are some varieties that do better in warmer areas. I don't have experience with them myself, obviously not being in a warm area, but in general, it needs a cool time. This is one reason you don't really want to store garlic in the fridge, because if you get it cool and then bring it in somewhere where it warms up, like pull it out of the fridge, this is often why it will start to sprout, because it thinks it's gone through winter and winter is over, and that means it's time to grow again. So just going to keep this in the coolest place I have in my house. That actually did all fit in there, but that little box is clear full. That should do pretty well for lasting me till at least next spring, when I can start eating fresh garlic scapes again. And like I said, I'll go through here and pull out the biggest 20 or so heads, and probably like that guy, it's really nice and fat, and replant them so that I can repeat the whole process over. So hopefully, if you have some questions about the things that weren't shown here, go back up and look up the other videos where I covered the other parts of the growing process. And if I totally forgot something, comment down below and ask me, but that's how my garlic harvest went, and I am very happy with it. So hopefully that encourages you guys to try planting some garlic if you never have. And fall is a good time to plant. I'm going to be planting mine very shortly here, like in the next week or two. Some of you guys might want to wait a little bit longer if you're somewhere a lot warmer than me. But whatever fall is, autumn is for you, sometime a few weeks before the ground starts to really freeze up, is when you want to plant your garlic. So that could be very different months for all of you. Hopefully that encourages some of you guys to grow your own wonderful, fresh, delicious garlic. Hi folks, Ariel over here. Thanks for spending some of your valuable time watching these videos. Hopefully you found something beautiful, educational, interesting, peaceful, relaxing, or useful while you are here. If so, find more videos here, subscribe so you don't miss any updates, and if you like what you found here, feel free to like and share away so that others can benefit as well. You all have a wonderful day.